Mr. Brady95 says, in a previous video, I heard you mention how active server pages changed the industry in the 90s even more than what AI is doing now. I'm curious about this and how it led to web development as it is today. Could you delve deeper into the topic and specifically what you mean by page-based paradigm? Thanks. Bit of a nerdy question. So prior to active server pages, the way we would build web apps is that the view code, all the HTML code, CSS wasn't a thing. It was invented, but nobody implemented it. So all the view code, all the HTML code, all the visual components of a web app, the designer would have to give that code to the developer, and the developer would have to stick that code into the backend code. So it was all jumbled up. So whenever there was a change to the design, the web designer would have to take that code, give it to the programmer, and the programmer would have to stick that into the logic. So the backend code was like Perl, for example. They have to stick that in, or maybe you were using Java servlets. It's a really big mess. So it was a really big mess. So you would have to execute, I think there were print statements almost. I think there were print statements. So you'd have a function, function print, and then you would put in your HTML in there. So it was a big mess for editing pages. That's it. So what happened when active server pages came out, they flipped it, where you would have a page, an HTML page, it would be a .asp page, and later was .jsp in the Java world, and .php in the PHP world, and so on. You would have your HTML. In the HTML, you have little snippets of, in the PHP case, would be little snippets of PHP, or in ASP case, little snippets of ASP code, which was 9 times out of 10 written with VB script. So it flipped it. So that means the web designers could work on the ASP page without having to give all that code to the developers. And the developers would have just little snippets, little bits of code that would be dropped in spots in the page. So it wouldn't mess around with the designer's design work. And so the developers could work on all their stuff without having to wait for integration from the designers. That's it. It's very old school, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. So it had a huge impact. It made you much more productive. As I mentioned, when I did my first ASP project, I took an old Perl CGI project, and the previous company had spent, I think it was 12 months working on it, a year. And it still didn't work. And I remember I was looking at the Perl code base, which is all traditional like that, with all these print statements for all your HTML. It was just a big mess. And so I saw ASP. It just came out, and I took a gamble, but I figured that I could build it in 30 days, something that took 12 months. Now, keep in mind, it's easier to copy a project than it is to write from scratch, but still. Anyway, long story short, I was able to learn ASP and create a brand new version of this app in 30 days on the fly. And that's how much more productive it made me. It was like a 10x, Anyway, that's it.